Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Yapzor. Today we are going to be talking about Python tuples, and also at the end of the lecture I'll be differentiating between what Python tuples are and what lists are. So without talking much, let's get started. So if you're new here, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel Yapzor for more wonderful tutorials. There are lots coming up. And also, if you're not new here, thank you for coming back. Make sure to like and comment your suggestions below. So before that, if you have any idea about list and tuples or any difference that I might not list here, kindly put them in the comments below for it to help others, and I'll make sure I'll put them in the description as well. So to get started, what's a Python tuple? A Python tuple is simply like a list. It looks like a list as we did, but a tuple is an immutable container that holds many objects under a single name. And a single name here is the variable name. And a list is, as we said, a list was a container. And the difference is that a list is mutable. In a list, you can change the objects, you can modify them, but in a tuple, you cannot. That's why we have data of a tuple cannot be modified. It cannot. An example is date of birth. So let me open my IDLE. So you just type IDLE and you open. But since I've opened mine already, there will be no need. So with this, as I've opened, I hope it's clear enough. So to define a tuple, for example, I said date of birth. So with this, we define it with a round bracket. That's what I've just kept here. So how to define a tuple, and this is just simply it. You take the tuple name equal to, and instead of a square bracket in the case of a list, we use round brackets here for our tuples. So let me just do it fast. So I'll just do it fast here. So date of birth is equal to, I'll put the date in strings. So 23rd January, October 1990. Jan 26th December 2009 and 4th September 2018. So these are days of birth. And with this, the difference is that in this case we have days of birth which don't change. Days of birth in a house, your date of birth, it doesn't change. No matter how old you are, no matter what, it doesn't change. So with something of this, if you are saving it in a list, let's also have a list version of it so that I will just explain the differences as we go along. So date of birth list. So with the list, you use square bracket instead of round bracket. So we have two of them. So let's check for the type. And the first one, date of birth, is a tuple. And the second one is a list. So what's the difference between this? They give us the same information when they are being called. And the other one too, it gives us the same thing when they are being called. But what's the difference? The difference here is that with the list, you can easily change anything inside it. So to change the elements of the list, for example, I want to change this date. I can change the second date here. So if I do date of birth list square bracket 2, and I equate it to 34, it changes it for me. So when I call my list, this is what gives me. So we have the first one here, the second one here, and the 2, the one that was in the position to this, it has been changed to 34, and which is a bad thing, because for date of birth cannot be changed or should not be changed, and as it has changed, it has made the whole thing not good. So that's why we use what? Tuples. So that's just basically the idea behind tuples, to make it what? Not changeable. So how do we access elements in a tuple? It's just like the list. So if I put in my date of birth, we use square bracket for indexing. The square bracket here is not the one we use in list, but rather for indexing. So if I give in the position 2, it returns to me the third one. I already explained indexing in the previous videos, so you can try and check it out. With Python indexing, we start from 0, 1, 2, and it goes that way. So this is how I've been able to access the second one. If I do 0, it gives me out what? The first one. And if I try to change the data here, like I did in the list, you can see for here how I did it. So if I repeat the same operation here for tuple, it gives me an error, and the error is tuple object does not support item assignment. That is, you cannot change that particular element in the tuple. And what are the operations on tuple? As we saw in list, there were many operations, but the basic operations in tuple are these: count and index. So what count does is the number of times an element is there, and index gives you the position. So let's say index, and I pass in my date, so 23rd October 1990. The index of it is 0, and even as we called here, we had it. And in the same way, you can use the count, the number of times the element appears. And that is it. You can add more elements to your tuple. So to add elements, we have tuples plus equal to. That's to add and save it inside, and you provide your days. So I want to repeat the 23rd again. So 23rd October 1990. And I'll put in another date, 14th January 2019. And our new date of birth is now this. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've added these 2 days to it. And someone may ask that why is this possible, since we said tuples are not mutable? And the basic explanation is that with tuples, you cannot change a particular element. For example, I couldn't have changed this one, what is there, but I can add more to it, and I cannot remove anything. You can add more to your tuple, and it goes that way. So if I'm now using my count function here, since I've repeated the date here, my count function now, it gives me what? 2, since the date is repeated here and at the same time repeated here. So basically that's it for tuples, the basic understanding. I hope you understood me. So let's now move on to the differences, and I have them here. I did some research, and these are the most basic differences. So first one is what? List is mutable, tuple is immutable, and I explained that when I used the case of trying to change the elements here. As you can see in this case, list was able to change, but in the case of tuple, we had an error. We have the second one. List is useful for insertion, deleting, and deletion operations. And that what basically that tells us that in list we can insert elements to it. So with our dates of birth list, I could have done insert, provide a position, then give my own date. So 32nd, this is a strange date. I don't know why I love it so much, but I just like 32nd February 2032. I don't know why. It's a strange date. I don't know whether it will come or not. So just for an example, so if I do that and I go to my dates of birth list, it what puts that date in here. It then added to the end, like we added to the tuple and it got to the end. So that's it for the distance. So if you have a data that you need to what edit the elements, you need to insert at a particular place, for example positioning and stuff, that one you need a list for it. And how to what tuples is useful for read-only operations like accessing elements. And what that simply does is what in tuple we have it for read-only operations. That's the person can access it but cannot edit. That's relating to the first point, which is mutability. So the person having the person can access the date of birth, but the person cannot what do anything to it, cannot modify it, and it's good, and it keeps you safe because the user cannot just change the information anytime. It's static for the person to use always. So it's good for what? Read only. So if you have data that you need it to be read only, you don't need manipulations on it. You can use tuples in your program. Lists are many inbuilt operations, and that I discussed it in the list. So we have our list here. When you click on the dot and you wait, it gives you all the operations that are, most of them, these are not all, but these are some of the distance that are there, and you can see that there are many compared to when you use the tuple. The tuple in this case, they give us 2. So that just explains that point. Sorry. And another one is, so list tuples have less inbuilt method. I just explained that. The unexpected changes and errors are likely to occur. So in list, anything can change at any time. For example, I'm storing dates of birth, but here, if I call my list right now, if I call my list right now, 34 is in there, and 34 is not what? A date, which is a bad distance for it because I was able to do the change easily. That's why it that error can occur. So in case I'm processing this data anywhere, that I'm providing in the date and I pass in the list, it will run an error at the 34 since that is not a date. And that's just what the point is saying. There are more errors that can occur in the list, and tuples operations are safe. So with tuples, it's safe to use them. Your information is never changed, and it's what good in there. So someone will ask, at what point do you need list and what point do you need tuples? As I explained, when you need a data that doesn't change, like dates of birth, list, at that point you at dates of birth, sorry I mentioned list, dates of birth, tuple is a better way of doing it, keeping the information there. You want to keep dates of birth of your students, not only dates of birth, dates is the most commonly distant award, positioning, and this thing. You can use what tuple for that. You don't want the data to be manipulated or to be changed. But in a case where you have an addition, the elements, they are changeable, you want them to be changed, at that time you will not use a tuple, because though you can change the elements of a tuple, but it's not advisable. For example, if I wanted to change my tuple here, I want to remove the first reason. So my tuple, I have this there, but I want to remove this date. I want to remove this. The first thing I have to do is to convert the tuple to a list. So what I do is I just type list. So I'll just put date of birth is equal to list into bracket, date of birth. And with this, our date of birth is now a list. You can check in the type. and it's now what? A list. So with this list, I can easily change anything there. So I just this observe dot remove. Let me just use pop to make it easy. Pop -1. That's the last element. So this is the last element. I've removed this. So if I call date of birth now, that element is no longer there, and I'll convert it back to a tuple. So date of birth is equal to tuple in bracket date of birth. So we have our date of birth back to be a what? A tuple. So I've been able to change the data, but it took me a long process. That's why tuples are what? Safer, because this process might not take, you might not take it. It's only when there is a serious need for the change that you take it there. So I know this video has been quite long, but I tried my best to explain to you to understand tuples and the difference between tuple and list. So if you have any question, you can leave our clarification, you can leave it in the comment section. I'll be glad to help you. And please subscribe to my channel. I'm still growing. We know we'll get there, but I want you to subscribe and share this video to others to help them also learn. Also check out some of my videos. I have some of them on the screen right now, as you can see. Check them out. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.